task force, who was both on task force work and also was part of our policy council. Alicia, can you tell us a little bit about your experience this year?
Yeah, hi. So I was really excited to join the Policy Council for the first time this year. And I think the thing that for me, it was always really intimidating because I had never done any of this work before. And so with GBC and being a part of the Policy Council, I started to understand a little bit more of how some of the bills came into law or how they moved through the system. And then I was also really excited to jump into a task force. So the task force was a really cool way to focus on very specific issues. So with the task force, I actually looked at bills that were all centered around taxes, fees, and regulation. And what we did was did a really deep dive into all the bills, the bill language, and making recommendations based on how we thought it would affect business owners and our experience as a business owner. In the task force, we were able to kind of work collaboratively and then share that with the larger policy council. And as the policy council, we would all collectively make recommendations as to whether or not this is a bill we wanted to support. This is something that we didn't support. Why didn't we support it? Or this is something that we wanted to make changes to. So it was a really collaborative way to think about how bills move through the system.
Great. So once that was done, and Tracy, you're also on our policy council. Did you have any input that you had on how the policy council work was for you, or the task force work?
I'm sorry, did you mean me, Tracy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, it's same. I was on a different task force and I've been on the policy council for a while. And this year I was on a new one that I hadn't been on before. And so it was good. It was a big, I learned a lot, read all the bills, had some good people on our team, got good feedback. And that is, I do enjoy doing that too.
Awesome. Cool. Sarita, you also were in that crew. Did you have anything to add there?
No, I think I really liked being a part of the task force because it really did give me a good, or policy council, because it gave me a really good overview of a lot of the bills that were going through this session, and just a really good idea of what was happening, and being able to give my input and voice in that, and feeling a big part of the process.
Very cool. I will note there are a few other members of the policy council on the call today, but we're going to move along for now. So let's move on to kind of a cool thing that was new that we did this year. We asked a couple of our members to record a short video about why they supported a particular bill of ours, so that we could send it out in our call for action and get people excited about the bill. And then we were able to actually send that video to legislators, even though those folks weren't able to do testimony during committee. We were able to send their sort of video testimony, if you will, onto the legislators. And Tracy did a great video for us for a healthcare bill. Tracy, you want to talk a little bit about maybe why you decided to do that video and what it was like to get that out there?
Sure. So this legislative session was a little bit different for me because I had a ton of work travel that I couldn't avoid. And I had some healthcare emergency with some of my animals, and I never once was able to make it up to the Capitol. And so I'm super grateful for GBC for giving me a chance to flex my advocacy muscles a bit in this way. And so I'm talking about creating that support video. And the process was super simple. Started out with Angelique reaching out to me with an email, and she kind of knows what my jams are. And so she knew that this would be in my wheelhouse. And so the next step in the process was reading the bill and crafting a message. And then you have a chance to practice a little bit, then do your little recording. If the recording, if you make a mistake or you want to redo it, delete it, start over. So no stress way to get your message made. And then I emailed the recording to Angelique, and GBC is able to get that video in front of the intended eyeballs, and super easy for me. And I do realize that stakeholders and lawmakers really want to hear from small businesses and value our voice, which is why GBC is so impactful. And all I had to do was bring a little bit of my passion and perspective to an issue that I really care about. And so I just really want to thank GBC for making it super easy for my voice to join the conversation during a session that was really kind of tough for me. So yeah, I recommend people doing that when there's a bill that they care about and they can't testify in person or whatever life gets in the way. This was really great, and thanks.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for doing that. I think it was really powerful. I would like to welcome Senator Jaquez Lewis, who has joined us. Welcome, welcome. Nice to see you, Senator.
Let me see if I can get my video working here. I don't want to delay your meeting.
Not at all. We'll have some time, I'm sure, and I can pop back over if you wanted to say anything, but mostly we're sharing stories.
Oh, great. Well, I am sorry, I can't, for some reason, my video is not turning on, but I am here and I can't wait to hear all your stories. I just caught the last end of that recording videos. I mean, any communication from our local business community is super important to us on so many bills. Angelique knows this from coming to bill signings and just being there at 12 midnight for Senate committee hearings. It really does make a difference. So thank you all. And I just, you are our partners in so many things that we do, and we really appreciate it. So please, please keep up your interactions and your activism with us. We need it. And I'll be quiet now and just sit back and listen and try to work on my video.
Great. Okay, so somebody who did get a chance to do some remote testimony this year is Katie Burford. So Katie, I'm going to invite you to talk about what your experience was like.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I couldn't have done any of it, obviously, without the help from Good Business Colorado, because I'm far away in Durango and quite busy this time of year making ice cream, because it's a seasonal business. And but yet I did find myself there making testimony virtually in Denver and getting to say some things that were really important to me. I spoke to the climate bill. The exact name is escaping me, but yeah, I mean, it's just this opportunity. It was very empowering, basically, because I do have strong feelings about it. And I know what a difference these laws make that are happening kind of far away. But, just the physical acts required for me to participate in the process seemed way too onerous until, like, all of a sudden this opportunity was in my lap. And, especially helpful was Angelique's discussion with me before the testimony, really honing in what I wanted to say, and the fact that she took kind of my stream of consciousness thoughts and turned them into concisely stated testimony very quickly was incredibly impressive. And and I didn't feel because you know, the last thing you want to do is like hold up the process or not say what you want to say. And I felt very confident once it was done that I had that opportunity. And yeah, I'm definitely planning on doing it again.
Fantastic. That's great. All right, so I'm going to go now to our Pinky Party, which, as I mentioned, was a brand new concept that was just a lot of fun, I thought, and was a way to get some people into the conversation that we haven't really seen before. And one of the people who came to our first Pinky Party at Mainstream Nails is Naomi Amaha with the Denver Foundation. Naomi, tell me a little bit about how that party was for you.
Thank you so much, Angelique, and good morning, everyone. So happy to be here. So I'll give a little background. First of all, it was amazing. I'm so glad I got to go, but I'll give you some background as to why I think it was so amazing. So I'm really fortunate to lead policy work for my organization. Have been in this space for most of my career, and so much about how we get people excited about the process is creating experiences for people to feel comfortable, you know, knowing who their legislator is, knowing what are the topics that are being discussed at the state capitol, helping them see that they can be an advocate and how their story is so impactful. So it's been so great to hear some of my fellow panelists speak to that and how they've been able to articulate their story. Because as we know, elected officials, especially in Colorado, they have jobs outside of their work as a legislator. There are so many issues they are asked to weigh in on and vote on. It can be challenging. So the storytelling that can come through experiences is really helpful to help them see why an issue is really critical. So I say all this in that I feel like the Pinky Party did exactly that for those that attended, especially those that maybe are newer to this space. Good Business Colorado created a great experience at a business that I love in Denver. I am bad, I can't get in because they're so busy. But you walked in and there was great music and food from local vendors. There were games, so a bingo game that folks participated in to kind of understand what were the big issues happening at the state capitol and going across Colorado. There was interactive opportunities to vote on what issues individuals cared about. And I think that's a great way to kind of crowdsource what are things that Good Business Colorado should be taking positions on. And so you had people be able to vote for housing and climate and, you know, supports for businesses. There was also what I loved is obviously it's a pinky party. So folks had the opportunity to either decorate their pinky nail or get henna done on their pinky. And I opted for the henna. But what I loved about that and in hearing about the concept was this is the way to draw attention and then give that person an opportunity to speak to something they care about. So for me, I remember coming into the office and everyone's like, what's on your hands? And I'm like, let me tell you about this policy pinky party that I went to from one of our great nonprofit partners. And they just thought that was a really cool way to draw attention to the space that Good Business Colorado created, but for also the people that got that on their finger, the issue that they cared about the most. There was also an opportunity for folks to use a QR code to look up who their state elected officials are, because that's something a lot of people maybe don't know, and that's okay. They don't live in this world in their day-to-day life. You know, it's a way for them to know who that person is, and then maybe send them an email to say, hey, you know, I'm a member or supporter of Good Business Colorado. Here's some things that we care about, and use it as a starting point. So I love that there was a policy pinky party number 2.0 that happened at the state capitol. But I feel like this first one was a really great opportunity to just build awareness, you know, build comfort in engaging in the process and have fun at the same time too, because a lot of the issues that you all have spoken about and more that we'll hear about, they're tough issues and it's a challenging environment to drive change in. So like, how can we make this fun and a good experience, but also give folks the tools to feel like they can engage? So I feel like it was such a great experience. I hope it gets to be an annual event because I personally want to come, but want to see the space grow for the members of Good Business Colorado and other community members that want to engage in the policymaking process.
Thank you so much. And it was we were able to follow up with a couple of opportunities for the folks who attended that pinky party. And we did have at least one person that we know of who did sign on and communicate with their legislator about that issue that they cared about. So we feel like that makes it a success right there. Okay, let's go on to our Advocacy Day. So this is the day that we invite people to come to the Capitol. We tell them about what are the bills that that GBC is working on most intensely. We give them an opportunity to understand what it looks like to speak with their legislator right there. And we have a couple of folks who were there this time. So Rita, would you tell us a little bit about how your experience was? I think you had a pretty neat special experience there this year.
Yeah, it was really fun. I loved it. I love being in the Capitol. I think just the energy is so palpable once you're in there. But I really enjoyed, I think GBC just did a great job. You guys did a great job just organizing the day and organizing meetings with the legislators and having them come in and speak to us in the morning. And one of the things that I think the day did is, especially for people who hadn't been involved in the process before, it brought a level of comfort and took some of the intimidation out of it. Like knowing that the Capitol is accessible to everybody, that you can just walk in this building at any time, and how easy that is, and to get to know the space, and to, that you can just go and watch the Senate or the House. Well, they were out of session, but that you can just go watch them on the floor, and you can pull your legislators off the floor, and they're willing to talk to you, and they want to talk to you. They want to hear your voice and your stories. And those stories are so impactful. And they really did take the time to talk to us, and they were so engaged. And I think that's so important to know. And once you start having those conversations, it starts getting less intimidating. And then we were able to sit in on committee hearings. And as you do that, you realize it's not so intimidating to give your testimony. And you can see how the whole process works and how testimony works and how important it is, because you have, 10 people in a committee, or I don't know, 8 or 10, I don't know how many people sit on a committee, but they need to hear your voice because they're making these decisions, 8 or 10 of them, and all our voices are so important. So I think that was impactful just to see that and see the process, and having the meetings with the senators and the reps, and how much they really value talking to us, I think was really special. And yes, I did. My niece came with me. She's 16 and she loves the whole process. She loves politics. And so the fact that everybody was so wanting to talk to her and hear her stories and listen to her as a youth. I think she just left there so inspired and empowered. And while we had a meeting with Senator Danielson, and while we were in her office, Senator Danielson actually offered her an internship, and she now has an internship with Senator Danielson. So that was actually a really cool part of the whole day. I think that was the best part of the whole day for her and us. So yeah, that's very awesome.
Definitely. That was very, very cool to see her get just so fired up and engaged. And man, that internship is just like, woo, love it.
Oh, she is so excited. She's just, yeah. And I mean, just to have her there in that youth voice and see how engaged she was able to get, I think even more than anything, and how that was very cool.
Yep. So Kathy Birds was also there with us. Kathy, do you want to tell us a little bit about how that day was for you?
Well, first, it was amazing. And I love the leadership that Good Business Colorado, especially for women. I mean, men have good leadership already in place, but Good Business provides a lot of good leadership for women. And I like that. Going into this, my representatives I haven't met. Now, Senator Hawkes Lewis, it is nice to meet you. You are my representative. And I was there to meet her and Ms. Parenti on that day, and really influence, especially housing is important. We're a small business in Commerce City, and we can't seem to hire people in Commerce City because I don't know why. And we've been working on this for a long time. But one of the things we learn is housing and affordability plays into it. So I was really focused on that. And that is huge because Good Business Colorado listens to business owners. And then I had something really odd happen. Sarita can understand this because her and I spent many times, the nonprofit that I founded, discussing service dogs. And from a perspective of, as a person with a disability needing a service dog, I spent so much time getting to the morning meeting. I didn't get to meet the senators because I was trying to have conversations about a service dog all the way there. So the thing that came of this is, Paula, I learned, as you talked about how our governor's thoughts and ideas and how and what he represents, we have to be in thought. I really, Senator Lewis, Jaquez Lewis, and Senator Parenti, in my mind, and still do, it's not that it's just in my mind, their values and their perspective on life and things all add up, right? With mine. I had someone ask me what I do for the nonprofit, not my business. So I got sidetracked talking. And then Senator Barb Kirkmeyer stepped in front of me
Oh my God.
and said, can I help you with this? This is brilliant. And this makes a difference in our state. This will make a difference with our kids. I need you to call. And she sent me directly to the agricultural commissioner's office, made sure they knew I were coming. And tomorrow I'm sitting in front of 4-H, and we're now talking about implementing this educational program with 4-H across our nation, not just in Colorado, to educate people about service dogs and service dog etiquette. And I would have never guessed, Paula, never guessed that Ms. Barb Kirkmeyer,
The Republican from Greeley.
I would have never guessed. And I've learned long lessons. Deborah has talked to me about this. I had to learn, we are all human beings in here.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
We all have
sometimes.
our agendas, and it's not about being in a political party. And that was a big lesson that even Ms. Deborah helped me understand. And I'm so thankful for that. And there's another lady outside of this named Pat Walk. And that woman has held my hand through a lot and helped me understand more. So Good Business Colorado has not just been, as a small business person, a great resource. They've also been like a university of learning. So I'm very grateful for the people they get us in front of and the voices that they help escalate to hear what our needs are.
That's great. That is really great to hear. So Advocacy Day, don't miss it next year. Magical things happen that you just can't predict. Things happen that you can't predict that are fantastic, and also things happen that you can't predict that you have to adjust to. For example, somebody mentioned that we're all planned to have people pull their representatives off the floor. And we had been assured by all the representatives that we reached out to that they were going to be in session, they were going to be on the floor all day long. And so we really were like, okay, great, they're going to be on the floor. We won't worry about the timing. Well, it turns out that it didn't work out that way. Their schedule shifted around. They needed to get out into committees right away. And so we weren't able to pull representatives off the floor. And the Senate was in the middle of very heated discussions on a topic. And so a lot of them weren't taking cards. So we had just had to adjust to that. But no matter what you go in planning for, something magic is going to happen that you couldn't have expected. So I think it's always worthwhile taking those opportunities. Let's move on to our Pinky Party 2, which also took place at the Capitol. This was an event where we came not necessarily to advocate, but really just to, again, bring people to the space and get them oriented and have them do something fun to learn their way around and just get in the building. And magic happens even when you're just there for that. So I'm going to ask Michael Diaz-Rivera if you would talk a little bit about your experience at the Capitol that day for our Pinky Party.
Hey y'all, Michael Diaz Rivera here, owner of Better Days Delivery. And I love the pinky party. It was just what I needed in the moment. I wasn't cool enough to get my pinky painted, but I did get into the Capitol and talk to some good folks, so that was really cool. So I own a cannabis delivery service, and I'm a social equity operator. The way that it's set up right now isn't equitable. And so I've really been trying to organize social equity folks to fight for our rights, writing all the representatives, but I've been doing a lot of it, feeling like I've been on my own. And so then I found GBC and I found a little community that I could learn how to do this with. And that's why I was just so grateful that I was the only person there talking about cannabis, but it helped me to learn about organizing and that it doesn't have to be just my issue because I've got other passions like education and sustainability that also I want to contribute to. So it was good to just sit back and learn, and even just to get in there and talk to legislators, even a representative that doesn't agree with me on some things. We were able to have a face-to-face talk where I was able to see her perspective on it. And so that even helped me to learn strategically, how can we come together in the future? So, no, yeah, definitely thank you, Deborah, for walking with us and everybody that was in my group. We had a cool group. We took lots of good pictures. We learned lots about the Capitol, and it was just a fun time. It was a great experience. Thank you. I'm having an attack of so I'll pause. But thank you.
So thank you. I'm really glad you were able to join us that day. And I will note that, we had a small but mighty group join us for our scavenger hunt. And there were folks that we were able to bring that day that we had not ever had engaged in advocacy before, who've been engaged in other membership activities, but it was the first time, that was the right moment for them to come. And we had, I think every person who came that day was from a marginalized group of one sort or the other, which was pretty exciting because we're really trying to learn how to activate folks who maybe aren't in traditional positions of privilege or power. So that was really great. Okay, and then Alicia, you were there too. Did you have any thoughts about the scavenger hunt you want to share?
Yeah, so that was super fun. So I own a graphic design agency, so I'm very much in an artistic, creative world. And so I never imagined that I could actually go to the Capitol, because you imagine that there's a lot of like suits and that it's a very intimidating building. So what I loved about the Pinky Policy Party is that we were going around. First of all, we spent a couple of minutes looking at some different art pieces because there's a lot of really cool things that we could find and fun facts to learn about some of those art pieces at the building, but also to demystify it. And it was a really cool way to show up as we are, listening to music that I like, hanging out with people that I like, and being able to feel comfortable going into the Capitol, which again feels super intimidating. And that's one of the things that I love that GBC does, is made it feel more accessible and know that you have a tribe going in.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much. Let's see, there are a couple of people here who were at the bill signing. One is me, and I already told you a little bit about how cool I thought it was. Another is Deborah. Deborah, do you have thoughts about how that bill signing was for you?
It was really, really awesome. I think today we've walked through the different ways that we work to empower members and engage in the process. And it was our first bill signing at a GBC member establishment. And we were beaming with pride, and it was just so cool and so fitting. It was really interesting. There were 2 bills being signed, and the second group that came in was with the pharmaceutical industry, and they were there for another bill that was being signed. And people were like kind of intrigued. Why are we here? What is the meaning of being in this place? And then after the bill signing, they were like, oh, now we get it. It makes sense. Like, these are the business owners that are actually directly impacted by the bills that are being signed. And so to have a member that will be impacted by a bill that was being signed post the bill signing felt pretty awesome. We hope to do many more. We hope to do many more. And especially we have such incredible members across the state. And, the governor does a bill signing tour after ledge session every year. And so now we've got a taste for it. We're going to work really hard to make sure that our members across the state have the opportunity to partake in this part of the process.
That's right. And you know who else was there is Senator Huckes Lewis. How was that for you? Did you enjoy that space? I see that your background is about the same color pink as the studio there.
Yes. And I still apologize. I don't know why I can't get the video, but I'm just thrilled listening to all the feedback from everyone who was not only at the bill signing, but what the engagement with us and being at the Capitol means to you. I would love to have y'all come every day if you possibly could. I mean, I think a dose of reality for so many legislators about this is what's going on in the business community in Colorado. I'm a small business owner myself. I'm a pharmacist, and before I ran for office, I had a 4-person consulting business, and it's just so important that all of us really stay in touch with your senator and your House rep. And for those of you that maybe don't know, just please take a moment and look up who your senator and your House rep, who they are, because we love hearing from you. But I loved having you at that bill signing because it really put a pin in the fact that every decision that we make around healthcare and around insurance and around cost drivers for businesses, it put a pin in how much it impacts all of us. It's not just a policy decision for the Division of Insurance or for pharmacies. It's about all of the healthcare costs. So thank you so much. And I'm getting ready to put my email in the chat box, and I encourage any of you that want to reach out, even if I'm not your senator, please feel free, because this is how we learn what needs to be fixed. This is how we get ideas about improving policy, and this is how we get our bill ideas to do all of that. So thank you so much for letting me speak with you.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to toss also into the chat the webpage for our legislative agenda. And we did have quite a few bills on our agenda, so I'm not going to go painfully through every single one, but I just want to mention some of the top priorities that we had and what happened this year for our legislative agenda. We have a few areas that are our top priority areas. Every year we do a member survey. We have over 50% of our members participate. We just call through until we get that number at least. And climate was actually the top of the pyramid this time. Climate was really on people's minds. And there were a few things that we engaged with this year, and I'm very pleased to say they all passed the top priorities that we had. One was a greenhouse gas emission reduction measures omnibus bill, which means that it had a whole bunch of pieces in it, one of which is interim goals for our carbon reduction for the state, and one of which is an Ensure Climate Risk Disclosure Survey. The reason we like that is that, as we know, climate risk is already costing us money. Disasters and the additional cost of insuring against those disasters is an economic driver now. And we think it's important that people understand there's an economic cost right now. So spending money to address climate change is not compared to spending nothing. It's compared to spending money dealing with climate change. So we liked that provision a lot. That is a bill that died on the calendar last year, which was painful. But this year, Senator Hansen brought it back. I'm sorry he had to jump because I wanted to congratulate him on this bill. And it did get passed. Almost everything was in it. There was one piece that got put into a different bill that was then run on a bipartisan basis, and that one passed as well, which provides some support for agrivoltaics and regenerative agriculture for some of our rural members. But we were happy about that. And that went actually through pretty seamlessly and pretty early. then there were two later bills that we spent a great deal of effort on, and they were both related to utility regulation and transparency. If you'll recall, last winter, we had really high spikes in our energy bills. There was a select committee that was formed to study what happened, and it was the findings were that natural gas, being so price volatile, was a big piece of what was actually driving those costs. So there were two bills, 291, which limits what kinds of expenses the utilities can pass on to ratepayers, like lobbying and advertising, and does some other things to help reduce that, help make the utility carry more of the volatility of that gas cost. And then also another one, which was 198, clean energy plans, that again makes the process a little more transparent, and puts in some interim targets for greenhouse gas reduction. So we were very pleased that all of our higher priority climate bills passed. Actually, all the climate bills passed except one, which actually ended up being a little bit we weren't sure about by the end, had to do with reporting greenhouse gas emissions on the ballot. And there were some, the devil's in the details. There were some provisions that some of the enviros were concerned about. So I'm not crying over that one not having passed. Equity was another big issue that our members cared about. And I'm sorry to say that the issue that we were really doing the heaviest lift on did not pass. But it sounds like maybe there was a little bit more work possibly to be done on it. In any case, that was the unemployment compensation dependent allowance, which would have provided $35 extra per week per dependent for a person who was on unemployment insurance. And there were some concerns about how that would impact unemployment insurance rates for businesses. The proponents gave I thought a pretty compelling case that it would not have much impact, if at all, because of the timing of when the bill would go into place and the pay downs that have already happened. Nevertheless, it did not pass. So maybe we'll see some more stakeholder process on something like that, because of course, if it does have a negligible impact on business and has a really positive impact on single moms of color for whom this is really, this is really the people who would impact the most, then I think that's something that Good Business Colorado wants to pursue. Healthcare was a huge concern for us, and this was probably the most painful major priority for us. We were supporting an analysis of publicly financed healthcare, and that bill got through all its committees and it died on the calendar at the very end. So we are hoping to see some further action on that. We did also support the Safe Access bill package, which provides safe access to medical care and reproductive and gender affirming care for women and transgender people. And that bill package passed, which we were very, very happy to see that our state remains a good, safe place and a beacon in the midst of a really darkening political environment for women and transgender people. Housing, there was a lot going on in housing this session. We were really focused on the land use bill, which we were part of a coalition that was looking into that from really the end of last summer. It was a lot that was involved in there, and the governor got interested in the same concept at some point. And so there was a moment where we were, really moving forward and being sort of in control of the narrative and the process, and then suddenly we weren't. And that didn't really go the way we had hoped it would go, but we really got the conversation going on a lot of the components that will bring down the cost of housing in our state, if we deal with it as a statewide issue, while allowing the flexibility for communities to find the best ways for them to move forward on meeting their housing needs. And we then had one high priority issue in taxes, fees, and regulations, which was employers giving notice of certain tax credits that really lift people who are low income, but that are very underutilized. And so it's pretty easy for the employer to just let them know they might have this available to them. That's all the employer has to do, but at least it gives the employee an option to say, oh, maybe this is something I can look into. So that is like the big picture. You can check out the rest of what happened on our legislative agenda page. Thanks to everyone for coming and listening to the stories of how people participated and what happened with our legislative agenda, and to the legislators who were able to join us. That was pretty cool. And I hope you all will stay engaged with us as we move forward into this phase of the year, which is about developing our own ideas for bills and then looking at what legislators might be interested in carrying them. So more from us later on that. Thanks again. We're at 12:20, but we're done with our program. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes back in your day. And thank you all. If you have questions, feel free to stick around. But otherwise, signing off.
Thank you. This was great.
Thank you.
And then there were three.
And then there are
Took
three.
the words literally, oh, let me stop the recording.